Good afternoon and welcome to South Africa. From Cape Town in the far southwest to the northeastern corner of Messina, from Durban on the far eastern coast to Alexander Bay where the Orange River crashes into the mighty Atlantic Ocean. You are now in South Africa live. You're currently in the eastern portion of South Africa known as the Lowveld, about 450 meters above sea level. So Lowveld means low-lying area, and within that area you're in the great Kruger National Park, world famous, iconic national park of the world. And this is where you find yourself, and we find ourselves, completely live on an afternoon game drive or safari. And our objective, of course, is to find the wonders of the African wilderness that have captured the imagination of people the world over. You are most welcome. Especially if you are a new viewer, we'd love to have you along, and we're very happy to have you. Please interact with us. #Safari Live or questions at WildEarth.tv. My name is James Hendry, and I will be one of the presenters with you today. On camera today we have Brian, the Thumb, just returned from his sojourn to Johannesburg and leave. He's looking fresh, his beard is beautifully trimmed, and the rest of his face is magnificently free of any kind of hair, unlike mine. On the other vehicle we have got Scott Dyson, the inimitable men's health model. Well, that's what he looks like. I don't think he's ever actually done it. And on camera with him today we have the inimitable Jean Drey, and his beard is now starting to look pretty scary. In the control room we've got Nikki Austin and Louise, and currently climbing the tower at the Gowrie repeater station we have Alex from deep Russia, and Eugene is in Nelspruit buying us a few things, so that's very nice of him. So that's the team, and Steph is also knocking about doing various bits of administration. Manuel is cooking supper, and Florence is doing a bit of the ironing. That is the entire team that is involved with this operation today. Like I say, we're in the Kruger National Park, a small piece called Djuma, 900 hectares of it, and we're about to head off to the east. Well, we got sort of on the northeastern side of the reserve, and our objective today is there were some reports of some lions just north of where I'm sitting now, and the idea is to see if we can't see if they've come onto Djuma. If they haven't, I'm afraid then we're going to knock about looking for other interesting things, but there is plenty to look at and plenty to see. Scott at the moment is heading off to the east to try and find Shadow, an iconic female leopard who we look at quite often. I've managed to find her this morning and spent a bit of time with her, and Scott's going back there now. He has a very special relationship with Shadow and Sindile, who is Shadow's cub, so named by the Twitterverse. So that's the plan. You probably won't see Scott for a little while. As I say, Alex is up on the Gowrie repeater trying to fix various things, and so the signal to Giga, which is the vehicle that Scott's on, is not working at the moment. So at the moment you're stuck with me and me ugly mug and the thankfully magnificent skills of Brian on the camera. Are you ready? I am. Let's go. Of course, getting into my cockpit is something of a challenge because, being short of stature, the cameramen have made me sit on about 7 cushions, and so it's quite difficult to get into where I'm supposed to be. So we're just going to check up. I just want to check up on the ridge here, then turn around and we'll go back along the northern boundary here. And oh, sorry, what I didn't tell you is that, of course, that bird you were looking at before you came live and had to look at me was a African fish eagle, a juvenile version thereof. Oops, sorry, didn't see that. Difficult when you're looking the other way. Sorry everyone. Brian's in a bit of a state now. So juvenile African fish eagle with a bit of a not this plain white head and neck. They've got quite a lot of chocolate brown on the chest. Oops. Couple of water buck over there. Not a good sign when you're looking for lions. I'll just roll slowly back. Brian, is that never going to be wonderful through there? Is this okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just stop here quickly and have a look at 3 fairly magnificent waterbuck bulls, perfectly coloured for this time of the year. You can see they're sort of grey, gold and pale, just like the trees, and they're standing in a thicket of Terminalia sericea or silver cluster leaf trees, nowhere near any water. They're called waterbuck apparently because they have the habit of running into water when they are threatened by predators. But, you know, I've never actually seen that. I've heard of it happening a few times, but I've never seen them do it. So this is actually roundabout where the reports of the lion came from this morning. So that's why I just wanted to come up here and have a quick look and see if there weren't any tracks coming across the boundary. I don't see anything as yet, but rest assured, if I do see them, I will tell you immediately. These winter afternoons do tend to kind of give the impression of fairly washed out light, not very soft, and then suddenly at around 4 o'clock the light starts to turn from this pale sort of whitish hazy glow. It turns to the wonderful golds of the low-felt winter sunset, which is marvelous. If you do happen to lose signal with us, it is because one of the masts isn't working. I think I should be able to stay within range of the working mast, so we should be fine in this area. But if you do, I apologize in advance, and that's what's happened. And thank you all for your welcomes back to Brian, who's now glowing with pride.
Thank you everyone.
It's rather good to have him back, isn't it? Good news, the Gari repeater is back up, so we're all systems go, no troubles thus far. That man from Russia is something of a genius, I tell you. Quite a windy afternoon. And there's a definite smell of smoke in the air. Definitely there's definitely some bushfires around somewhere, and we can smell subtle hint of smoke in the air. Couple of you commenting on a male facial hair. No, I haven't shaved. I have just kind of trimmed my beard slightly. Brian, however, has trimmed his to a fine design. It's a pity you won't see him. I'm going to turn around here. Hello, Kurt from Switzerland. You are perhaps a new viewer. Are you perhaps communicating with us for the first time? If you are, you're most welcome. If you're not, you're still most welcome. You want to know how old a leopard can get. Kurt, in this area, a female leopard, the oldest female leopard on record in this area is 17.5 years old. And the oldest male, who's actually still alive, around about a lodge called Londolozi, is... Something's running there. No, nothing important. It was a duiker. The oldest male, Kurt, is 14.5 years old. And he's actually still alive, but looking pretty rough, down in the south near Londolozi. I must just tell you all that today I'm going to stop here and just have a bit of a listen, because this is a roundabout where the lions were found. And as we listen, today is the 31st of July, of course, unless you happen to be in deepest Australia, in which case it might be the 1st of August, or in Fiji. And the 31st of July is World Ranger Day, and it's a day set aside to commemorate the lives of the people who have selflessly given of themselves, made the ultimate sacrifice for conservation. And certainly in these troubled times of rhino poaching and things like that, we just like to give a shout out to all of those special people who do take time. They don't get paid a lot, and they risk their lives trying to save our natural heritage, both in South Africa and throughout the rest of the continent, and throughout the world, actually, in South America and India and Russia and North America and everywhere else where wildlife struggles to survive in the face of human incursion. So a big shout out to all the rangers. Thank you for all of your work, and we like to think we do a little bit, but we know that we're not making the sacrifices that you guys do every day. So thank you very much for that. Right, I can't hear anything shouting out an alarm at a whole pride of lions, so we're going to carry on to the north. Definitely a lot of smoke in the air, and you can see that the atmosphere is hazy. I think we're in for a very special sunset this afternoon. And such a different atmosphere from this morning when it was so misty we could barely see 30 feet. Very slightly eerie feel to the afternoon for some reason. It's probably a good thing if you're looking for predators. Right, and as we drive along the northern cut line here, Scott is up and running, and he's on his way to Aratuza as far as I understand it, and he will tell you his plans just now, and I will see you a little bit after just now. See you.
Hello everyone, my name's Scott and welcome on board with me. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me a little bit later, but look ahead, we've just stumbled upon this. It's absolutely awesome. It's a bird that I tried to show you yesterday, but I couldn't because it flew off. But this is a much better opportunity because it's got a kill. I haven't worked out what exactly it's killed yet. And it may look like it's still alive, but it's just the wind blowing. It's very windy. And that's a little sparrowhawk that's made a kill. It looks kind of like a robin, but I'm not sure what it is. Sadly, Gendre is at full zoom, and I fear if we try and get any closer, the bird will fly off. So let's just try and make the most of this from here, because if it does fly off, I fear we will not be able to get another view of it. It gets very thick. Absolutely crazy. We heard a fork-tailed drongo alarm calling, and I wasn't sure what to expect, and oh no, there it goes. It's battling to fly, but it's landed. Have you got it there, Gendre? Gendre's still on it. It has landed, and maybe now, oh no. Before I could get my binoculars up, it flew off. But welcome on board with Gendre, who's on camera. and myself, Scott. It's so good to have you with us on this windy afternoon here in the Sabi Sands. Let's take a closer look and see if we can get another view of this bird. Oh no, it's flown off, and it's made such a big kill that it's battling to actually fly with this heavy cargo. So I don't want to give it too much of a hard time. It's got its hard-won meal. It's not easy for the predators, be it bird or mammal, to catch their prey. And like I said, that bird was almost as big as the little sparrowhawk itself, so every time it took off, it would plummet down towards the ground. It just scrape a few inches above the ground before reaching its next perch. What I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to find it in the book for you. Shouldn't take me too long. It may very well be a new bird for a lot of you to add to the list. Where have you gone? Oh no, we've got traffic. So we'll just pull off. This is one of the main access roads between Arathusa and a lot of other camps. So that vehicle that you may have got a glimpse of is just simply doing a transfer, bringing guests in and out. Okay, 1 second. So here we have it. The little sparrowhawk on the bottom left. And so awesome to see that tiny little predator catching such big prey. You may have noticed the one white dot on its tail, which was very distinctive when it was perched initially. And as it says here in the book, mainly small birds up to dove size as their prey, but also rodents, bats, lizards, and insects. Very, very cool little bird. And like I say, I'm sure it's one that a lot of you can add to your bird list. It would be wonderful to know what it had caught. I thought it could have been a robin, but I just saw a whole lot of feathers blowing in the wind, so I couldn't be sure exactly what it did catch. But maybe some of you guys who are watching in high definition on a big screen somewhere, you may have got a better idea as to what bird that could have been. So please send through your comments and thoughts. It would be greatly appreciated to all involved if we could work out what that was. And it's very easy to send through your thoughts and comments and questions. As I'm sure James told you, you just hashtag Safari Live or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. That hashtag Safari Live would be on Twitter, of course. As I said, I'm teamed up with Jean-Dre this afternoon, and we are looking forward to heading into Arathusa. There are reports from James, who was here this morning, that Shadow and her cub Sindile are in the general area of a kill that she's made. There's not too much remaining, but there is a strong chance we could track them down. It's a female leopard and a 12-month-old cub. And you wouldn't believe it, but in the early hours on the sunrise drive this morning, the Arathusa guides and other guides who traverse this area got incredibly spoiled with an awesome sighting of Tingana, a big male leopard, and guess who? The Anderson male. So the two of them were together, pacing side by side. And what I'll do is I'll get a little photo later that one of the guides sent me of them pacing about 10 meters maximum apart from one another, walking in the same direction, and they were hissing and growling and vocalizing their loud, rasping roar right next to one another, basically having a massive argument, fighting over land. They didn't come to blows, and they have been seen doing this quite a few times, these arguments you could say. But at some point, their tempers and fuses will become too short to tolerate the talking, and they will probably come to blows. Now, they were on the western side of Arethusa, west of the Arethusa Dam, and they continued south out of Arethusa into a property where sadly we cannot go. But who knows, maybe they'll come back later on this evening. I've never actually seen two big male leopards going at it before. You wouldn't believe it. Quickly on the left, Chandra, at 9 o'clock, midway in the tree. Look at that! Awesome! No, I can't believe our luck with small birds of prey this morning. That was a small bird called a lizard buzzard. And Jean-Andre has given me a nod saying he thinks he got into it, so you may have seen the drongos and magpie shrikes coming in and mobbing it, and then it flew off. You may have just seen a grey blur, but that was a lizard buzzard. Another tiny little buzzard, and I was alerted to it by, again, fork-tailed drongo, such a great bird for alarm calling, and a magpie shrike. So, where is it? On the same page as the little sparrowhawk, actually, which was down on the bottom left here, but it's on the top left. And a very characteristic little black stripe along the throat, resembling a lizard's tail. And I know it was quick and you may have only just got a blur, but that is what the smaller birds were mobbing. And just how we've been alerted to predators by birds twice already this afternoon, they can also lead us to bigger animals, bigger predators like lion and leopard. So it's vital that we have our ears tuned in permanently to the bush, because if we don't, we could miss out on some very, very useful calls from Mother Nature and her little friends. Well, very happy to hear that Gada has just added the little sparrowhawk to her bird list. And for those of you who are joining for the first time, it's not only about the big regular stars of Africa. There's a lot of other animals out here that certainly are owed a lot of respect, and it's merely because a lot of them are small that we don't notice them as easily, and that's why we don't follow them as closely. But it's not to say that they don't all have their own interesting stories to tell. Sadly, the lizard buzzard flew off quite far. It was leaning into the bushes trying to escape all these 4 or 5 birds that descended upon it, and then eventually decided to take flight and get out of there. And I wonder if it's something to do with this windy weather that's causing the predatory birds to be more noticeable somehow. Well, before we were interrupted by that little lizard buzzard getting attacked, we were chatting about Tingana and the Anderson male, 2 big male leopards who were having a discussion this morning, arguing with one another. And Susie sent through a great comment saying, these leopards aren't stupid, they know that if they get into a fight with one another, they both could get hurt. And you're entirely correct, Susie. Animals, unlike us, don't have medical aid schemes and are far less inclined to take risks, because any injury could potentially lead to being fatal, and they both know full well that a fight with another big male leopard could cause such injuries. And it's not just the leopard, a lot of the animals here will try and display dominance and vocalize dominance before physically trying to attain it. And it's not dissimilar from humans. Oh, I think we may have just arrived at a construction site, which is probably not what you're expecting, but it's important to know that things do need to be built out here, and this is a new airstrip that's being laid down, a tarmac airstrip, and I think I'm going to have to replan my routes. So what we're going to do is send you back to James, who's got some other large, not equipment, but animals, which is what you want to see. Enjoy, James, and the large herd. We'll see you later.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Wendy, and we've just found a fairly large herd of buffalo here on the very northeastern corner of Kunyuma, and as soon as they saw us, they gapped it. They started to run. You can see the dust in the air. That's from these buffalo that have been running, so they're obviously a bit stressed about something. I don't know where they've come from though, because their tracks didn't cross the northern boundary. So I wonder if they haven't had perhaps some sort of interaction with a lion. I suspect they've already been to Buffelshoek Dam, and they're probably on their way to walk across the cut line here to the east and into a reserve called Torchwood. You can feel the wind blowing, or you probably can't feel it where you are, but you can certainly see the wind blowing, and you can probably hear it, and it is blowing quite strongly, and so that'll make them very unsettled, because they won't be able to pick up the smells that they want to, and they won't be able to hear all the threats that they think they should, and so that just makes it all rather difficult for them. We're going to try and get a slightly better view of them now. We'll go around the other side, but it is a large herd for this area. We don't normally have them this big around here. I mean, you saw that big one the other day with Scott of about 400, and I suspect this is either the same herd or it's remnants of the same herd. So what we'll do is we'll just try and drive around the back of them like that, so we're not looking into the sun, and let them calm down a bit. They definitely are a little bit edgy, which is not a danger to us. It just is not great for them. So here we go. Very nice herd of huge buffalo. You can see them spreading all the way from there. This is a big herd. Very interested as to where they could possibly have come from. As we drove around this area extensively this morning, and so did Scott and Brent, and they didn't see them. Let's have a quick stop here. You can see them looking at us with great suspicion. They do say that buffalo look at you as though you owe them money. Now they're all starting to run. I told you this afternoon had an eerie feel to it, and this is adding to that. This wind, buffalo who are on edge about something, kicking up the dust. Now normally in normal conditions or flat conditions, the buffalo would just be very relaxed around the vehicle. You can drive into the middle of them almost. And this kind of windy, eerie afternoon is following on, of course, from that very misty, eerie morning that we had. There's quite a lot of bird activity in and amongst them. You can probably hear that. There are a few drongos, ubiquitous drongos, a couple of Birchall starlings calling, and some oxpeckers, of course, which are eating the ticks off the backs of the buffalo. The oxpeckers are going. That's something you really have to listen out for if you're walking in the bush, especially on a day like this. Because you don't necessarily hear and see everything, the oxpeckers will give you a very good idea of where animals are. And you can see that one of them definitely isn't particularly upset there. You can see him there on the termite mound. He's pretty relaxed, obviously, deciding to eat a bit. Well, he's certainly not giving up his post. He's watching us, but he's not giving up the nutritious grass that grows on the top of that termite mound. Right, we're just going to sneak forward and try and get around them a bit so we're not staring straight into this fairly bright afternoon sun. I really do like to see herds of buffalo here. We don't see them very often, and I quite enjoy them. I think the interactions that go on in the herd are fascinating. This is a big herd of buffalo. I'm sure it's the same one. I'm sure it's that same big one of about 400. We're at both sides of the road here. Just turn very gently down here. I'm just going to quickly update everybody on the radio if you don't mind, so excuse me 1 second. Stations located, large breeding herd of buffalo. Animals are on Hippo Pools Road, seemingly making their way east towards Cheetah Cut Line. Yes, with pleasure, make your way. Isn't this wonderful? We're just going to try and roll down into the middle of them. They're definitely, you know, normally they wouldn't move. We'll just try and let them relax with us for a second. I'm sure the wind is definitely having an effect, making them nervous. And it is blowing from, it's swirling, this wind, and so they're getting a whiff of us. At the moment it's blowing directly from us onto them. And that's why they sit and they lift their noses up into the air to try and get a handle on whether there's a threat or not. And some of them are starting to feed again. Some of them don't seem to be too worried. Excuse me 1 second again. They are mobile northeast slowly. I'm not copying you very well. Best approach to come Buffelshoek Cut Line, turn south onto Cheetah Cut Line. And you can hear that wonderful sound, that sort of belching noise. And we had a great question. The other day from somebody who said to us, do they make as much gas as a do they make as much gas as a zebra does? And they do. You know, they make a huge amount of gas, but it comes out the mouth, not out the bottom. And that's because they're ruminants, and most of their digestion takes place in the foregut or front of the stomach. Beautiful herd. We'll just slowly sneak a little bit forward. Just roll gently. Try not to start the engine if we can avoid it. There we go. They're starting to relax now, and the ones, interestingly, that are upwind of us are not moving at all. The ones downwind are slightly more nervous. This is just beautiful. And I'll just give you an idea of the smell. it basically smells like a dairy. I'm not sure if you've ever visited a dairy, but if you ever want to know what a herd of buffalo smells like, and you can't come here, try and find the nearest dairy in your area and you'll get an idea of what they smell like. Beautiful belching noises that they make. I mean, I suppose it's not the most beautiful sound in the world. It's not quite like a Mozart aria or anything like that, but it's a lovely wilderness sound. So a nice comment there from Johnny on Twitter, who says that a buffalo herd normally equals lions. Johnny, it does, you know, quite often. And so what you'll probably find, or possibly find, is that there will be a pride of lions tracking these buffalo. That's what I'm hoping anyway. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll be right behind them, but they might be close by. I mean, you can see that they're a little bit nervous about something, but the buffalo do tend to be tracked by large prides of lions. We haven't had the Nkahuma pride around here for some time. Maybe they follow this buffalo herd in here. We haven't had the Birmingham coalition of 5 young males for a while. Maybe they're following. So hopefully, if this buffalo herd stays with us, fortunately they're heading northeast, Johnny, they might actually hang around and attract some more lion activity to Djuma. So I think they are probably going to head off in a sort of northeasterly direction. And you're basically facing due west. And a nice suggestion, a lovely suggestion. As tonight, of course, is a blue moon. And for those of you who don't know, a blue moon, of course, is a full moon, the second full moon in a single calendar month, which in July we don't always get, but this month we do. And Gail is suggesting that's probably contributing to the eeriness of this windy afternoon. I'll just sneak a little bit further forward. It's not going to be sneaking, I'm afraid. I'm going to have to start the car. They don't seem to mind the car, you know, or the noise. I suspect it's the smell of us humans that's made them a little bit nervous. Some of them are very relaxed now. All around us now, chewing and belching and drinking and unfortunately also, of course, defecating and urinating, but that's what buffalo do. And I don't say that just to point out the obvious. I say that because a herd of buffalo coming through an area like this is so valuable for grazing. Without these buffalo herds, and they're not quite as big as they used to be in these areas, but without the dung that they put into the soil, and without the trampling effect that their herds have on the grass seeds, the condition of the rangeland wouldn't be nearly as good. Hello, Carly in Costa Rica, aged just 15 years, in the fountain of youth, which of course is long since past me. You want to know, basically, would these buffalo charge us if they got upset? No, you know, Carly, what they will normally do is run away. And you can see their first reaction when they saw us was to move away at quite high speed. So that's generally the reaction. If I got out of the car and started clapping my hands, I suspect they'd all just take off at very high speed. When they do turn around and charge, remember, a lot of people will tell you that a buffalo is a very dangerous thing. This is a grossly unfair statement. Buffalo, if they are threatened to the extent that they don't feel they can run away, well, then they are quite dangerous. So to lions that are trying to attack one, or if you're a hunter and you're trying to hunt one, then they do become very dangerous. So in this situation, where there's space for them to run away, it would be very unlikely that they would charge you. Keep your questions coming from Costa Rica. Lovely to hear from Middle America, well, Central America. So mostly we're used to seeing bulls, right? And they tend to occur around the waterhole areas. And they are bulls that don't sort of live in the herds anymore because they are a bit old and they're not quite as strong as they once were. Now, bigger than them and stronger than them are the bulls that live in the herd here, the dominant ones. And there's no absolute hierarchy, but there's definitely a sort of group of bulls that look after the safety, if you like, of the herd, and they'll move on the outskirts, move at the back. They'll sometimes hang around at the back, and a couple of them will move close to the front, but normally it's the dominant females at the front. And those bulls, Mavis, to answer your question, those bulls will absolutely be the ones that will take on a defensive role should the herd be attacked by a pride of lions. And I've seen it, and I think you've probably seen it too, where lions attack a herd of buffalo like this. The bulls do tend to round on them and will chase them. Sometimes a calf gets killed, or a cow gets killed, or even one of those big bulls gets taken. But they are very protective over each other. Thanks for that, Mavis. Good point. Just excuse me 1 second, I'm just going to go back to the radio. Breeding herd of buffalo at, it's Guaripan Junction Cheetah cut line. Animals look to be mobile northeast from here. 1 station here, 2 responding. So the radio plays obviously a fairly important role in these game reserves, especially where tourism is concerned. People are generally extremely helpful, and we do share information when we find animals. The great advantage to WildEarth, of course, is that because we have 2 vehicles out, we're able to spend quite a lot longer with single sightings than we might otherwise. That radio, while it can be a little bit disturbing sometimes, is extremely important to our work out here. I'm going to sneak a little bit forward. They seem to have sort of all crossed the road, and then some of them are almost crossing back. I think they will eventually graze their way over the cut line. So we'll sneak a little bit forward, then I think we'll turn around and we'll come back through in case they go onto the clearings. The clearings just to the east of us here. I'm pretty sure they've come from Buffelshoek Dam. They probably had a drink there in the heat of the day. We'll just let this little fellow in front of us, a young bull, we'll just let him cross, and his friend. Perhaps a budding romance going on there. Ex-Ranga, it is a windy day, and you say you're not particularly used to the afternoon drive, and is it hellishly strong? For us in the Lowveld, I suppose it's as hellishly strong as it gets hellishly cold here. So if you happen to live on the east coast of America and have experienced hurricanes, or in even middle America and experienced tornadoes. It's certainly nothing like that. It's nothing like a coastal wind. It's just quite a strong wind for us out here. So it's not hellishly strong at all. It's nothing like something you'd have when you're walking along the beach in a big storm. Right, so we're going to go forward, turn around, and then I'm going to come back east along this road and just see if they don't come into the clearings of the cut line. And we refer to these herds, of course, as breeding herds of buffalo. And that is, of course, because they are, Brian? Breeding, yes, that's correct. Well done. They consist of cows and their calves, and of course the big bulls who are still able to compete for dominance. And the youngsters who perhaps aren't quite there yet, and then the older bulls go off. And the gestation period for Jean, she was asking about buffalo breeding, is just under a year. If I'm not mistaken, it's about 11 months. It's been a while since I've had to look that up, but I think it's 11 months. And the reason I remember that, of course, is that the only ruminant with a gestation period longer than a year is the giraffe. So I think these guys are at about 11 months. Just a cow in there with a very widely set of horns, pair of horns. Which of course she's now, she's just looking at us now. Have you got it, Brian?
Yeah.
And that's her there. And you can just see the females have got, I mean, as elegant and feminine as horns can be, the females have got elegant and feminine horns. They don't have that big helmet on the top of the head like the males do. Which is, and on a bull, of course, that's called a boss. So they don't have a big boss. They've got a very sort of flat edge, very sort of elegant edge before the horns come out of the side of the head. All right, I'm going to stay with this herd of buffalo for a bit longer. But while they belch their way towards the east of the reserve, we're going to go back across to the Men's Health model Scott, and he has managed to re-find Shadow, and she's just a magnificent and beautiful female leopard, especially in the setting afternoon light. So we're going to go across to Scott, and I will see you a little bit later, possibly with, possibly without the buffalo. Enjoy the leopard.
Well, it's certainly still very windy where we are here at Arethusa, but our animal is far more relaxed than the nervous herd of buffalo that you've been enjoying watching with James. Exciting prospects there, and really happy to hear that the buffalo are on our property, because they could well lead some lion in behind them. So those are good prospects. But we have found Shadow in the meantime. She is extremely full-bellied, and you can see her panting quite deeply. There'll be a lot of meat pushing up against her diaphragm, causing her to take very short breaths. And on a hot day like this, even though she's in the shade, she'll still be fairly warm, so panting to try and keep cool. Now, interestingly enough, I provided you with a bit of misinformation on the way here. There's been no sign of her cub, Sindile, and nobody is sure where he is. And it's not the first time in the last week that she's actually been feeding on a kill all alone. So maybe if we're lucky, I can't see any remains of kills dangling in any trees nearby. There could well be. But if she has finished her kill, she could get up at any moment and head back towards wherever she left her cub. And that'll be wonderful to be able to follow her and see them reunite. But no guarantees about that. Ryan's also been enjoying the sighting with us, and it looks like he's got a few of our viewers on his vehicle. So that's quite exciting. I'm not sure which ones they are, but they all shouted my name when they saw me. So great to have some viewers out here sharing this special sighting with us. Now, interestingly, Tingana and the Anderson male were not far away from here at all this morning. They were probably less than half a mile having their arguments, and she would have very well heard everything that they were saying to one another and the dispute that was happening. And we're fairly certain that's why she's been spending more time further east towards Juma. We are quite far west into Arathusa here. And that also could be a very good reason why she hasn't brought her cub Sindile back here. If the Anderson male came across her cub, he would in all likelihood kill it, releasing her of her responsibility of further raising it and allowing him to mate with her. So that to me would be a very plausible theory that she may have employed in order to look after her son. Some of you may have initially been thinking, well, she must be a bad mother because she's not sharing her food with her young cub. But I think there's a certain method to it. In these very windy conditions, as James would have explained to you, the buffalo are very nervous, and rightfully so. It's dangerous and scary times for the prey animals. And I was just saying to Gendre as we were approaching the sighting that there is a strong chance when she leaves here, even though she's full bellied, when she leaves here to go back towards her cub, which she will inevitably do some point this afternoon or later this evening, she could very well come across some more potential prey. And who knows, maybe we'll get to see her make her first kill. We've never filmed her making a kill. We got close to filming her son Sindile catching a dwarf mongoose, making his first kill, but he missed. But a few weeks later, Jamie did manage to find him with one, but we didn't see the action unfold. Now that Gendre zoomed out, you'll see how incredibly difficult it can be to spot these animals while they are lying up in shady areas. So even if we knew that there was a leopard in this area and we came in to look for it, it still can be quite tricky to find them. And thankfully Ryan came in first, and him and his tracker spotted her and then called us in, so we got it easy this afternoon with the help of Ryan. Thanks very much. Well, like I said, very good prospects for later on, but for now she is appearing very relaxed. I'm not sure what kill she made. Let me just ask Ryan quickly. What kill did she have, Ryan?
It was a duiker.
Okay. And her cub was last seen?
He's still there, parallel side.
Is he? Okay. Was he seen there this morning? Okay. Close to Zebra Drive?
No, where the kill was. Pretty much the last set of tracks there.
Okay. Awesome.
Check you later.
Thanks very much. Sorry about that. I was just chatting with Ryan. You wouldn't have been able to hear him because he wasn't shouting, which is obviously the right thing for him to do. But he was just saying Shadow's cub was last seen quite some way from here. Hello guys. How are you doing? Very good, thanks. So basically what's happening now, everyone, is Ryan's pulled up alongside me and he's very silently making funny jokes to all of his guests, which you can't hear, but they're all laughing at me. And it is always good to have some fun out here. We spend a lot of time together working these wilderness areas, looking for animals together, and it's good to also mix up a bit of humor in amongst all the tracking and searching of animals that we do. And another reason why he's pulled up alongside us is he kindly gave us a very good spot in which to enjoy these views, and now he's trying to allow his guests to take some photographs on their way out from the kind of spot where he, like I say, very kindly left for us to see. Shadow, what are your plans this afternoon? How long are you going to keep us waiting here? We don't want to rush you on your full stomach, but it would be wonderful if you headed back towards your cub and reunited with him. It's probably the last thing she wants to do. He's going to be a bundle of energy, wanting to play with her. And she's got this incredibly full belly. I forgot to mention that Ryan did mention it was a duiker that she had killed here. And it's not uncommon for leopards to make 2 kills. I think that's what may have happened here. She may have made a kill here, gone back to check on Sindile. While she was going to check up on him, she made a kill close to him that she then co-fed on with him, and then came back to this kill after having left it for a day or 2. I think that is what happened. Now, a lot of you may be wondering, how much longer will Sindile, this 12-month-old cub, be taken care of by Shadow? And it's usually at around 18 months of age, anywhere from 18 months to 2 years, that a female leopard will become a lot less tolerant of her cubs and no longer lead them to her kills. She will, it's often a hissing and snarling match where she'll slowly chase them off and give them the message that they need to start fending for themselves. Naturally, the cubs, no different to humans, try and cling on to their parents and continue asking for pocket money and easy meals. And the leopard cubs will be tolerated in her territory. She doesn't expect them to just disappear into areas where it's not safe, where other female leopards or other male leopards could be that are not their mother and not their father. So she will tolerate them here. But like I say, she will be less inclined to bring them to kills. And Linda was just asking, will they be able to recognize one another once they have split up? And Linda, that they will, because it's not an instantaneous event. It's not one day they are together and the next day they're apart. It happens gradually over many months. If we take Kunyuma and Quarantine, for example, they hung around for about a year after they were kicked out. When we arrived at Juma, she was already on her own. She had started in raising a new litter in late November, December last year. So they were already self-sufficient but tolerated within her territory, and quite often they would co-feed on kills that she had made. They would come in and get an easy meal. So they will continue to be able to recognize one another for many years, I think, to come, not just a few months. And because of this, even if Kunyuma, who we saw yesterday, bumped into Karula, I'm fairly certain that she would tolerate him feeding on her kill, or more importantly, he would actually tolerate her. If it was a random male leopard, he could well chase her off and she may not take the risk of trying to still feed on the kill, but the two of them would still feed together, even though it's a long time after he has become independent. So a good question though, Linda, but they certainly will be able to recognize one another. And it's important for leopards, just like humans, to be able to recognize other individuals within the same species, because Shadow will understandably treat her mother, Karula, slightly differently to possibly a completely random female leopard. So there's a bit of history there. Even though it's not strong bonds, they will know one another and therefore treat one another slightly differently. Well, not too much has changed. She's just simply actually got more comfortable. And she's lying flat, fast asleep, enjoying this windy weather, keeping her cool. Well, a funny story of another leopard sighting involving a duiker. It was Kunyuma, the same leopard we got to saw briefly yesterday, who killed a duiker very close to the Kunyuma waterhole a few months back, and after feeding on it for I think over about 24 hours, he went for a drink at the Kunyuma waterhole, and we were parked there. It was VM, the other cameraman, and myself, and Kunyuma drank for so long that VM, who's not a man of many words, eventually piped up, "Oh, that duiker must have been very salty." So, so I'm wondering if Shadow also got a salty duiker, because if she did, the good news is the Arathusa waterhole is not too far from here, and she may go down for a drink later, which would be beautiful to share with you. Now, we've been discussing the likelihood of Sindile being kicked out by his mother at around 18 months to 2 years of age. And the reason why she'll need to do that is so that she can focus on feeding herself, getting strong, and also raising the next generation of cubs. And in order to do that, she will need to mate. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when it comes mating time. She may well mate with both the Anderson male and Tingana, because she'll know that by mating with both of them, she'll give one of them the false sense of actual fathership. And what this may mean is that they will both tolerate her cubs. But after she does mate with either one or two of them, who knows, it's not uncommon for leopards to possibly even mate with 3 different male leopards. It'll take about 3 months gestation period, and Pamela was just asking that question, so roughly 3 months, but just over than that, to be honest. About 100 to 110 days is the average gestation of a leopard, and not very different to that of a lion. So if we do a quick calculation, August, September, October, November, December, January, end of January, Sindile may start becoming more independent. And then February, March, April or May next year, hopefully Shadow will be giving birth to her next litter sometime around then. Well, there is some wonderful, wonderful news, and it's thanks to a lot of you viewers who watch the Kunyuma waterhole cam. There's been a stream of emails and tweets saying that there's another leopard, and it's at the Kunyuma waterhole. So James is flying across there. He's only a couple of minutes away, and as soon as he gets closer by, I'm sure you'll jump onto his vehicle and try and find exactly where this leopard is. I'm not sure if it's still at the dam, if it's already moved off, but how exciting, another leopard. I wonder if it's this leopard's mother, a female leopard called Karula. It could well be. Failing that, maybe we'll get lucky and it'll be Kunyuma, one of Karula's sons who we haven't seen for a long time. The starling is very close to Sindile. Very pretty birds that iridesce in the afternoon sunlight, and as it hops around this acacia tree, we should get some views of it. But there's not enough time for that, because James is in the right place to receive you. Enjoy jumping on board with him. I wish I was coming with. See you later.
everybody, welcome back to Wendy. We've just come back here to a sighting of a male leopard. We think maybe Kunyuma, who's been drinking over here, and apparently he's just gone into the drainage line here. Apparently right now. Let's try and be patient, look for a bit of movement maybe through there. He's definitely not there right now. We'll just go back a bit. Try not to drive off the wall. So everybody, if you perhaps are unfamiliar with the leopards here, this is a young male, we think, offspring of the great queen, so I suppose you could call him a prince. But I don't see him, which is extremely distressing. Apparently he just went over as we came through here.
Can you hear some monkeys involved?
Can you? I think it's worth probably just going straight down into the drainage line. We'll see if we can't pick him up there. I can't see him from up top here. Leopard tracking, of course, is 1/2 patience, 1/2 speed. If it is one of these leopards, he's pretty relaxed, so if he's there, we should have a pretty good chance of seeing him. There's a little track down into the drainage line here, and I'll go on to that. To see that he doesn't pop up here. Keep your eyes peeled, Ibrahim.
Here he is.
There, we got him. Haha. Well spotted, Brian. He's running, jogging slowly. There he is. He thought he'd got away. Beautiful, beautiful animal. Well done, Brian. So it does look like he's going to go back down into the drainage line, and doesn't look particularly relaxed, you know. Just stand by. Just through there. Everybody, there's a track that goes down into the drainage line here that I'm going to go along to. And we'll just see if we can't get a better view that way. There it is. To me, doesn't look that relaxed, so we're going to be quite careful about it. Why he just looks a bit tense around us. Put your head here, Brian. Sorry everybody, it's very thick here and I couldn't just smash in after him, I'm afraid. We had to come around. Only access to this drainage line. Eye out and see if he hasn't crossed. Listen out for the birds that might be alarm calling at him. So he came into the drainage line just over here. Something moving in here. hear the birds alarm. There's some birds alarm calling just up there. Let's just watch down in the drainage line there. There he is. He's gone out the other side. Thank you, birds. There he is. Oh man, he's doing a very good job of staying away from us. Can you get him? Not really.
Not really, no.
Okay, I'm just going to pull back. We will see him. There we go. There he is. Yeah, he's coming out slightly into the open now. We'll just have a quick look from this angle and then I'll get back out the other side. Oh, look at him in that beautiful light. Stunning. He does look like he's got quite a full belly on him. He has been drinking, of course, so it might be that he's got a lot of water in his belly. I wonder if he hasn't got a kill and maybe he's come to have a drink. Mid-meal snack. It's not entirely usual for them to be moving around this time of the day. Not impossible. So it's slightly frustrating not being able to race after him, but because he just doesn't look that comfortable, we need to be quite patient about it. Thank you to all of you viewers who were watching the Arathusa cam with one eye, or maybe two eyes. Not Arathusa cam, the Juma Dam cam. Thank you so much for the update. Without you, of course, we wouldn't have the sighting. So he's just up here. He'll probably now disappear back into the drainage line as we got out. Sorry, Brian, hold on tight there. Very easy. Get some kind of handle on this. Do you see him anywhere? I think he's gone off down here. I'm going to try and follow through here. Incredible how quickly a leopard can disappear. Let's see his tracks here. The basic line in which he was walking. Sorry about this, everybody, but we did get a great view of him. It just didn't seem that comfortable to me. I don't know why. As soon as we saw him, he started to jog. Right, that's a nasty tree there. Go through here. No tracks of him here. I suspect quite strongly he's gone back down into the drainage. So we'll try that quickly. Any tracks here. Oh dear. We'll definitely keep trying. course, in an open area you can drive with great stealth and silence, but not so easy around here. So, Scott is across at Arathusa with Shadow, as you know, but he's had to make a little bit of space for some of the other guides. So you're going to stay with us for a bit longer and see if we can't re-find this fellow. I'm just going to contact Brent. He's just about to head out on drive, and I'm going to get him to drive down that side and see if he can't pick him up. Brent, do you copy? Brent, what is your position? Brent, we had a brief visual of male leopard on Central, going into the drainage line to the south of Gowrie Dam. We are trying to follow up in the drainage line. Is there any way that you can come back along Central? That would be great, thank you. Right, Brenty is on his way, he's not far. So that'll have at least two of us trying to sort of find him. I don't see his tracks here at all. We're just going to keep trying, very gently, slowly maneuvering our way through here. Very nice word of warning from Susie Johnson, who said that he was the master evader. If this is Kunyuma, he's the master evader, and that we must keep looking behind us. Thank you, Susie. I'll bear that in mind, and we will indeed keep looking behind us. From our resident leopard expert on the interweb, Raisa, who's normally, there's a vulture there, who's normally very good at identifying our leopards. She says she got a good look at his spot pattern, and it is probably Kunyuma, which is quite nice. You know, we were around Buffelshoek Dam when we got word of him, and we were just chatting to a couple there who've come across from Torchwood. They had a male leopard there earlier today, and they thought it was a mvula, which is quite exciting. So he may be in and around Buffelshoek Dam at the moment, while Kunyuma hangs out here. So you can see the vulture there. That's a white-backed vulture. And I've turned the car off because we got our second visual, of course, because the rattling cisticulars had seen him and they were calling. So now the idea is to try and see if we can't have the same kind of indication from a bird, perhaps some other alarm calling animal. He was heading directly for where we are now. Anyway, we're going to carry on. I can't hear anything alarm calling right now, but we'll keep driving towards there. Quite a good area for tracks as well. The ground is pretty soft. Got him on the ground there. Aha. And he's spitting at us. He's not happy. Okay, I'm going to be very quiet here. He was just lifting his lips up and going, you know, they don't, it's just indicating that he's not very comfortable. And apparently that is what Kunyuma does. I have very little experience of this magnificent beast in front of us. But that's basically his trait, apparently. Brent, we have relocated. No need to come. Thank you very much. stations have yet located young male leopard in drainage line to the west of Central Road, basically where the road does its bend towards the east. Animal is in the drainage line on the ground, but not very relaxed. I'd like to limit this to a 2-vehicle sighting if possible. Very nice. The way we identify them is from the different markings, and different people have different preferences for which markings they change. But as the proverbial cliche goes, a leopard doesn't change its spots. Well, certainly not a great deal. One of the best ways, just above the whiskers, you can see a couple of spots just above the whiskers. I'm not sure if you can punch in on that, Brian. There you can see he's got 3 spots just above the whiskers, so that would make him 3 on the left. Yeah, that's 3. While assessing the situation here, Vanessa, so yeah, it's absolutely, you can look at the different spots and things, and that's how you tell the difference. Those spots above the whiskers are the best. We're going to go quickly back to Scott. He's got this beautiful leopard aunt with her. She's up quickly, and I'll come back to this.
Well, apologies, it sounds like James had some technical difficulties at the end, but that doesn't matter at all because you've come at a good time. As you can see, Shadow has revealed the remains of this male duiker that she's killed, and it looks like she's just trying to get into a comfortable spot where she might be able to stash it or possibly finish feeding on it. You can see there's not very much left there, but I think she will want to finish that off or possibly get it somewhere safe, up a tree, and then maybe she'll go for a drink. Hard to say whether she's going to actually finish it or stash it somewhere. And sorry, I was just backing down so that I made sure my head wasn't in the way of the leopard. But what we can do is creep forward maybe a meter or 2. No, we're going to creep backwards a meter or 3 instead. Hold on tight, everyone. I think here she's going to hoist it up this marula tree possibly. Just on our right there's a marula tree and she's just about to cross the road towards it. Watch closely and get ready to take some screenshots. This is going to be awesome. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get my camera out in time. Oh no. Quickly. Oh no, you wouldn't believe it. I've got no camera battery, but she's about to do it. There we go. Awesome, look at this. Wow, this is so awesome. Haven't we got so lucky? We will try and reposition and possibly get on the other side of the sun. But for now, we've got a great silhouette of this leopardess up in a marula tree. It's an iconic scene of Africa, and especially this area of Africa where the marula tree is common, and so is the leopard. Now this may be a little bit gruesome, so if you are queasy, you may want to think about going and making a cup of tea, or pouring yourself something stiffer, and rejoining a bit later. what I would like to do is reposition the vehicle now. So just it'll be 1 second and then we're going to have perfect sunlight behind her, which will be great for your screenshots. Jandre is just trying to avoid showing the other viewers. That's why he's filming quite quickly from side to side. This is going to be absolutely incredible, and I cannot believe my camera has got no battery. Would you believe it? Going to be a bit of a squeeze. This is going to be much better. You can see she's got her razor sharp claws latched firmly into that duiker. And it's probably not going to take her very long to finish off these remains. They do have incredibly powerful jaws, and she'll probably be able to crush straight through the skull of this duiker, starting with the upper jaw. And like I said, it may be a little bit gruesome, but it's a good display of how nothing goes to waste here in nature, and she'll feed on as much of this kill as she possibly can. And what she cannot finish, look at this, what she cannot finish, the hyena and other animals will come in and make sure nothing is wasted. Tricky business this, but leopards have this incredible ability to clamber up trees. And what she's going to be trying to do is to get somewhere comfortable. But it's not easy, and because it is such a long stringy carcass, it's getting caught and tangled on branches as she moves forward. Oh, there she goes. Looks like she's got vaguely comfortable for the time being. And I am going to suggest that we do reposition one more time. It's not often we get to see leopards feeding up in trees, so we're going to try and make the most of this. Go ahead. The other guard was just, sorry, Jandre. The other guard was just trying to get a hold of me there, but I'm not sure exactly what he wanted. If you listen closely, you'll hear her powerful jaws crunching through these bones. And you can see her licking quite often as well. The licking will help strip off small pieces of meat. Their tongue is like sandpaper. So she'll be getting a lot of small morsels by doing that have been shattered by her jaws. Well, aren't we lucky? Perfect winter afternoon sunlight bathing her coat. Now, because this is such a wonderful sighting and we have been here quite long, I just want to call the first vehicle on standby and let them know that they can make their way. We have seen great clips or great moments in this sequence. We've got to see her hoisting this kill into the tree and now feeding on it a little bit, but we do need to share and you guys are lucky enough to possibly go straight back to another leopard with James. Station on first standby for shadow. Only stations on standby for shadow. Well, I can't seem to get a hold of anyone. So I think we're in luck. Are any stations on standby? Standby. Is he coming? Is there anybody on standby? Oh. Okay, we're in luck. I was just confirming there, making sure my radio was working, and it is. And sorry about that, but it is very important that we share sightings so that if something great like this happens in the future, we get called in to get a glimpse of the action as well. Oh. Listen to those bone-crunching jaws. That's a fully grown male duiker, so it's not like it's a young, underdeveloped animal. It's small but fully grown, so those bones will be incredibly hard. And it just goes to show how powerful these animals are. Now you may wonder why she's decided to hoist this kill into the tree and then feed on it. It's going to be far safer for her up in the tree, especially in these very windy conditions when she wouldn't be able to hear hyena or other predators approaching, especially when she's crunching away on the bones. But up here she knows she's safe. She's certainly less comfortable, and it took her a while to find this comfy spot that she's now enjoying. But that is why she was happy to keep the kill on the ground somewhere next to her when we saw her earlier. But then as soon as she decided to start feeding, she's come to a safer venue. Looks like she may be trying to chew off the horns now. I might be wrong. Look at how windy it is. You can see that tree in the background blowing wildly. Oh, this is wonderful. Well, in all that excitement, my earpiece got pulled out, so I haven't been in comms with Nikki in the final control room, but now I'm back up and running. Discussing this leopard's cub quite a lot today, and how she spends time away from him, and how she's going to boot him out and let him fend for himself in the next 6 months roughly. And Jim is interested to know, how does young Sindile, the cub, learn how to hunt if she's always hunting alone? Like most animals, Jim, instinct will play a massive role in their lives, and they don't need the same tutoring and parenting that we do. So their instinctual habits will cause them to chase prey when they are left alone from just a few months old. If they see a grasshopper jumping past them, they will run after it, or a small lizard. They are naturally inclined to want to chase and catch things. Even like your domestic cats, who would never have been taught how to hunt and have been domesticated for many, many years now, they still have that instinctual need and desire to chase down prey, even if it's only to kill them and play with them. Those instincts are there. So her cub doesn't have to worry about anything. He's going to be just fine. Oh no, that wasn't very pretty. It looks like she is feeding on the brain now. She's managed to crack into the skull, and like I said, it is gruesome, but at least it's a good sign that nothing goes to waste. You'll also notice her claws protracting out of their sheaths to maintain a good grip on the duiker. Well, some of you may have just joined the show quite recently, and I know Elise did. And good to have you with us, Elise. We will forgive you for joining the show late this time, but next time you should have been here an hour and a half ago or so. I'm only kidding. Good to have you here, like I said. And Elise is interested to know, where is the cub? Where is Sindile? As I'm sure a lot of you who may have just tuned in would also like to know. He's quite far from here. He was left probably 1.5 miles from here the last time they were seen together. And the reason why, at least this is my theory, that she may have decided not to bring him here is because the Anderson male and the Tingana male, two big male leopards, were seen very close to here this morning having an argument with one another, and she wouldn't want to bring Sindile back into this area if she can avoid it, because of the risk of running into the Anderson male. If the Anderson male comes across Sindile, he will kill him, and that's why we think she's left the cub away from here. It's important for her to still come here to maintain her territory, but I think when she does come this far west into Arethusa, she'll tend to try and leave Sindile behind. So very good mothering by her. She has picked up on the threat of the Anderson male, who's expanding his territory and pushing deeper into Tingana's territory. But we're hoping that if she does finish this kill sometime this afternoon or evening, she may head straight back towards Sindile. So good prospects to hopefully see them together later, but for now, it's just going to be her. What I've just said may not make sense to some of you, and Karen in England is asking, who is this leopard's father? And it is in all likelihood Tingana, Karen, and that is why he will accept him within his territory while he grows up, but the Anderson male would not. So Tingana will tolerate his cub Sindile, and they have actually been seen fairly recently, about a week ago, all three of them feeding on one kill together. But the same does not apply for the Anderson male, who is not the father of this cub, or the cub of this leopard we are looking at. This is all a bit confusing. Well, I'm making it a bit confusing. Now as she gets close to finishing off this duiker kill, you may wonder what she will do with it. And I know IPA, which is a name that I have yet to hear all the way in Chicago, has just asked that question. Will she discard the remains and drop them down into the ground, or go and drag them away and bury them under a bush? Usually what will happen, IPA, is that she will feed on the kill until it's broken down into little pieces that some parts will naturally fall to the ground. You very seldom see kills remaining up in trees, so they typically do drop down, and if they are left up in a tree, it won't take the birds of prey like bataleur and tawny eagles very long to find them and then pull them down and feed on them bit by bit. So you will very, very seldomly see kills up in trees, and as we see her now start feeding on another portion of this carcass, it probably will get broken up and won't remain as long as it is. It's one long string now, but that will change as she begins to slowly break down little bit morsels by morsels. Well, we are going to send you back from one of the daughters of Karula, a female leopard, to one of her sons, Kunyuma with James. We will call you back if anything exciting happens here, but enjoy the new view of Kunyuma.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Wendy, where Kunyuma is recumbent there on the ground, and you can see he is not in fact alone. Quite apart from us and a hornbill that is calling just on the tree over there, he is in fact also in the presence of a kudu. That kudu is either trying to hide from him or is dead, and I suspect it is in fact dead. And the most impressive part of it, of course, is that it's a pretty huge animal for him to have killed. As I sort of predicted that he'd maybe gone up and had a drink after a substantial meal, that's exactly what he did. And just over there, underneath a buffalo thorn tree, is a young kudu bull. And I reckon he weighs probably in the region of 50 to 60 kilograms. I reckon that kudu bull, the young kudu, is probably at least 100 to 120 kilograms. That is absolutely astonishing that he's managed to take that down. I'm not surprised he's lying there with a full belly, and it barely looks like he's touched his prey. And I'm sure this is exactly what the buffalo, at least what the vulture, was looking at before we came up here. And we can't really get a great view of the kudu because he's stashed it quite nicely underneath a buffalo thorn tree. And I don't want to go any closer. You know, he's a bit ornery, this fellow. And when we drove in here again, he gave us a bit of a snarl. So he's not, in fact, the nephew at all of Shadow, who you've just been watching. He's in fact a sibling, a much later sibling. And so while Shadow is most certainly old enough to be his mother, she is in fact his sister. And I suspect possibly the wind may have helped him with this hunt, but not once the physical stuff began. So he may have been helped in stalking the kudu with a wind like this blowing. And the wind is a fairly recent addition to the day. I mean, it only came up probably at about, I'd say, 3:30. It wasn't blowing that strongly when we started the drive, and it came up sort of as we began. So between 3 and 3:30. I think this kill is probably older than that. But even if it had helped him to get up and stalk this kudu, once the physical side of it began, you know, the wind wouldn't have helped him at all. So what the leopards do when they kill, they have two methods depending on the size. And you've just been watching Shadow with a duiker. And with a duiker, they'll stalk exactly like they would with a kudu like this. They stalk up to her or him and then jump on the back and bite the back of the neck and snap the spine behind the neck. And that obviously causes instant paralysis and death fairly soon afterwards. With a kudu like this, which is so much bigger, a bite to the back of the neck is going to have almost no effect at all. So what he would do is then come around and grab the windpipe, and in so doing strangle the kudu to death. And also that has the added advantage of not allowing the kudu to make any kind of distress call while it's being strangled. And I'm sure that's how he dispatched this hapless fellow lying under the buffalo thorn bush. Now he'll have to watch out, of course, because he's not within easy range of an obvious tree where he could stash it, and it is very heavy, and he might be able to pull it up a low tree, but I would have thought it unlikely that he would be able to carry something like this up. Now, you'll be told that leopards are able to carry something twice their body weight up a tree. I think probably their own body weight is around about the limit. That's certainly the biggest that I've ever seen. So you can see a knobthorn tree there. Not a great tree for stashing kills in, but if he has to, he will. But if he doesn't, this is going to attract the attentions of some vultures, especially on a less windy day, and it will start to sniff pretty badly fairly soon, and that will attract the attentions of the hyena. Now the den that we go and visit on a daily basis is not too far over there. With a wind like this blowing from the southeast, I don't think they'll smell this. But as soon as it becomes a little bit stiller, or if some of the clan are perhaps roaming around this area looking for things to eat, they will definitely smell probably the insides of the kudu and come and investigate. And he won't stand and fight a hyena. He'll just disappear. He'll melt away into the bushes. Terry and Jody, you're both very happy to be seeing Kunyuma again. Jody, you say your day is complete with a wonderful Kunyuma snarl. Well, yes, he's a bit of a grumpy fellow, isn't he? There's definitely 3 spots on his left, which is our right, of course. That's how I like to identify him. And then he does have a very dark spot. I think that's what people say. Just above the nose, he's got 2 dark spots on his right-hand side, and there's one particularly dark one there, kidney-shaped, that I think gives away his identity. So we had a nice question about how we identify them, and that's one of the ways. The other thing to look at here, if you can punch in on his eyes, perhaps, is that his eyes are now completely yellow. Pretty sure as he shuts them. Open your eyes. Lazy fellow. There we go. Oh, no, he's not being conned. If you look at Sindile's eyes, and Sindile, for those of you who don't know, is Shadow's cub, and he's just about a year old, and his eyes are a sort of bluey yellow, and they were obviously much bluer, and they're now starting to turn to a yellow color. He's roughly 3 years old. It'd be very nice if somebody, perhaps Raisa, you're very good at this stuff. Can you tell us exactly his birthday? Very aware he is. So you can see that Kunyuma here has killed himself a young male impala. That's fairly typical of young males. They tend to be a bit more adventurous with their killing. And Susan's just asked, do leopards often have some kind of preference for their kills? And the answer is, Susan, yes they do. Some will be more generalist than others, and some will be sort of specialists. The best example in this area, of course, is Tingana, who's a big male leopard off in the western side of our traversing area, and he tends to specialize on something very unusual, and that is an aardvark, or ant bear, and he has caught many of those. He goes and he sits around the termite mound where they burrow, lies down, lights himself a cigar, drinks a cup of coffee, and waits for them to eventually emerge, and then pounces on them and takes them up a tree to feast upon them. That's an unusual specialization, but it's a good example of it, and absolutely they will certainly specialize on different things depending on the area they're in, some more generalist than others. I suspect that Tingana has probably discovered that aardvark, if you're patient enough, taste pretty delicious. Pamela, just as we watch him there breathing, if you look at his breathing, stomach going up and down, and he's breathing like that because he's full. And Pamela, you want to know how long it takes for a leopard to digest his food. Pamela, it's difficult to answer. You know, so basically you want to know when he will eat again. Pamela, he will eat again, I would think, maybe between now and sometime this evening. I mean, that's a pretty broad and may sound even facetious answer, but they will eat until they're massively full, and that they have a very short digestive tract. So unlike us, so meat in human beings takes about 3 hours to get through the gut. For him, I would suggest it'll take probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours from one end to the other. But he'll stay as long as this meat is not stolen by something else, or as long as he's not harassed, he'll stay here and finish this. It might take him about 4 days, but he'll eventually move on. But as long as the meat is available, he'll stay with it. So just something to think about while he's sitting here. This is a young male. No, it's a tree. It's a tree moving in the wind. I thought I saw something. Young male. You can see he's alone. Leopards are by default solitary animals, and in terms of, we often get questions like this about family, and it's a word that we like to apply to animals as human beings. And Vanessa, you've asked, does he have a family of his own? Vanessa, leopards don't have families as such. They're solitary, and he is nearing maturity now. So he's just about, I think he's about 3 years old. And Susie, you want to know, do you think he's trying to take the territory from his father, Mvula? He's not, while he's an impressive fellow, no question, he is nowhere near as stocky, as strong, or as experienced as his father. and he'd do well to stay away from his dad rather than try and take his territory at this stage. So back to Vanessa's question, you know, he's got a mother, obviously, and a father, as most mammals do, and that sounds incredibly stupid. I'm sorry about that. Don't laugh at me, Brian. Vanessa, his relationship with his mother is not strained anymore. He might actually steal some food from her, but if they come across each other, it can sometimes be quite warm, although he's independent now. If he came across his father, it wouldn't be so much. It's more than likely that his father would chase him and try and get him out of the area. And then in terms of when he may sort of start, I don't want to say start a family, but when he might breed on his own, normally it'll take him till he's about 5 years old to get to maximum size. Then he'll be able to take a territory, normally away from where his father is, and then he will mate. And as soon as he's taken a territory, he'll mate and he'll sire some cubs. So that's generally how it goes, Vanessa. Susie, I don't think, you know, his father, although he's got a sore eye, he's still in pretty good nick, and this fellow's no way he's going to be able to take that territory at this stage. Alright, so, I mean, we really are massively spoiled today. Of course, we have 2 leopards on 2 different vehicles. Wonderful to have that sort of thing going on here. We're going to go across and see how Shadow's doing with Scott, and I'll see you in just a little while.
Well, we are all being spoiled rotten this afternoon, and we have spent our fair time looking and tracking these animals down unsuccessfully, so these wonderful moments are really, really so good to enjoy after many hours of less entertaining sightings or no sightings at all. Incredible that Kunyuma managed to kill a Kudu, a very big prey item, even for a male leopard. He is still a youngster, so we must remember that. He's going to get a lot bigger. But happy to hear that he is successfully hunting now that he is almost self-sufficient, or is self-sufficient. Well, one of the things that I love about this show is that people all around the world are watching this live entertainment as we speak, and one of those viewers is all the way in Costa Rica. Hello Martha, good to have you with us. Martha's interested to know, how often will a leopard need to feed or make a kill in order to keep in good condition? It's a good question, Martha. Tricky one to answer though, because if you look at the 2 leopard that we are watching this afternoon, one has made an incredibly large kill, a Kudu, which is probably 10 times the size at least of a duiker. Look at that afternoon sunlight. Oh, that's beautiful. So depending on the size of kill made and how long they will feed on any given kill will therefore determine when their next meal would need to be. But from being full bellied, they can go at easily 3 or 4 days without another meal. Obviously she's going to be full bellied after she finishes this duiker, but you wouldn't have had as much food as Kunyuma would have if he manages to finish this Kudu over several days of feeding on it. But like I say, a full belly will last a leopard at least 3 or 4 days, and even a week would be within the safe boundaries of how often a leopard needs to eat. It all depends on the size of prey they get, but they often manage to make small kills along the way that we may not be aware of that keep them sustained. So we may see a leopard every day over a 1 week period and never see her with a full belly, but not notice if she's maybe fed on something like a scrub hare or a bird. So there's small animals that they can feed on to keep them sustained that we might not know about. And it's important to mention that Karula just the other day made a similar sized kill to this. It was a steenbuck, and she finished that kill within probably an hour of making it and then moved off. So she was obviously very hungry when she made that kill and therefore consumed it quickly. So there are so many variables that go into it. Leopard will also be known to make, or are known to make, multiple kills. She could be with one kill, sleeping on the ground, and an impala could walk past that she could ambush and then have 2 kills. Or when she's on the way to drink, just like Kunyuma went to drink this afternoon, she could make another kill and hoist it up a tree. So they could even have multiple kills at the same time when the going's good, I guess. These windy conditions make for great hunting, but the fact that it's a full moon tonight doesn't make for good hunting. It makes for very tricky hunting because the animals, the predators, don't have that perfect cover of darkness. She's been plucking off the fur of this duiker. You may have seen a small little bit of the fur fly off there, and the wind's blowing directly to us. And you wouldn't believe it, but we've got a little sample right here. And if you take a closer look, you can see some of the duiker's fur that was blown into the vehicle from up in the tree. Absolutely crazy. And isn't this wonderful? The leopard's just a few meters from us, up in front of us. The sun's about to set to the west. And you've got another leopard to enjoy seeing as well. And it'll be interesting to see when Kunyuma does decide to start feeding on the kudu again. I'm hoping that he manages to, just like this leopard here, hoist the kill up into a tree. It's very big and heavy for him to do so, but he may be able to make it happen. And if he does, that means we'll be able to watch him feed on it for maybe the next 36 hours or so.
Alright, so this is Shadow.
Where's your girl?
She's a lot smaller. Much smaller than that.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
How are you doing? How's it, Louis? Sorry about your view.
Wow, that's fine.
You may have just heard another vehicle approach, and Louis's got all of his guests positioned perfectly to see the leopard, but he's parked right behind Jandre and he can't see a thing. And it is important that we mention that all of the guides are so hospitable to us. We operate quite differently to them, and that we can afford to spend long periods of time with animals, whereas they're often in a rush to try and show their guests all of the different animals in a 2 or 3 night stay that they may be spending here. But they understand and tolerate us to spend longer in sightings than normal, because we are, I guess, catering for slightly different products where we can afford to invest time with animals. Look at this. I'm wondering when the hyena are going to arrive on the scene. They could well know that there is a kill in this area. I think it has been here for a few days, and in this very windy conditions, the scent will be getting dispersed far and wide. And I'm guessing it won't be much longer until we have some hyena snooping around on the scene. So if some of you have just joined the show, it's important to know that there's not only this female leopard shadow feeding on a duiker, Kunyuma, a young male leopard, is also on a kill. He's not feeding at the moment, but he's made a kudu kill.
With a lock on it. The tree on it.
And I believe Ryan in Toronto is interested in knowing how far away are these two leopards from one another. And they're probably about 3 miles as the crow flies, Ryan. So not very close at all. And Shadow, actually, this female here, doesn't go as far as the Mulwati drainage where Kunyuma is feeding on that kudu kill. She hasn't been seen quite that far east into Juma. And now a third vehicle is joined, and isn't it wonderful? I must say, a lot of these guys that are joining the sighting have been very spoilt. They've been enjoying watching Tingana and the Anderson male, who have been found again this afternoon. Sadly though, it is on a property where we cannot go, so we're only going to be able to hear the wonderful stories from that sighting and be able to share them with you. But our time will come when we will get to see those two males together. Oh, it looks like she's having a hard time finishing off this duiker. Oh no, don't do that. Surely that's not going to work. Oh, well, that's one leg bone for the hyena. And slowly she's managing to crunch her way through this duiker. About half an hour ago its head was fully intact. Now it's missing its upper jaw and ears. So,
Well, you can look at the spot patterns.
even though this duiker has been here for possibly quite a few days, it's, I guess, probably a little bit easier to chew on once it's been hanging in the tree for a few days, as opposed to being very fresh and tough. And Happy Cub is interested to know, are there any diseases that leopards could get from feeding on kills of certain prey? No, not that I'm aware of. There's nothing that can harm them to a degree that it is not safe for them to eat. And even if kills are almost rotting and decaying, leopards can still feed on them, even if they're ridden with maggots. So thankfully they don't have any diseases that I know of that they can contract. Certainly not in this area of South Africa.
They don't really like this hair very much. The hair on the bone.
Still quite a lot of meat on that neck area. It's just getting at it that she's finding difficult. And she'll use her teeth on the side of her mouth to try and crunch through this meat and skin, almost like scissors. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask Doug quickly. He's just been, I think, with Tingana and Anderson male, what they're up to, so I can relay it to you guys. How's it, Doug? How you doing? Good. Were you with Tingana and Anderson?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, okay. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Awesome, Doug. Thanks very much. And are they vocalizing, going at one another? Okay. Well, we've just got some great news from Doug. He says they are still together. They're still vocalizing, having this argument of theirs over land, and he seems to think that they are heading towards Arathusa, so it might be worth us heading across there, and maybe we'll get lucky and get to see the two of these big dominant male leopards together. So, as great as this sighting is, and as much as I don't want to leave it, I think we may need to, because who knows when next we will get the opportunity to see Tingana and Anderson. Station controlling Tingana and Anderson. I'm just going to get on the radio quickly and see if I can squeeze into the sighting. Hey, said Scotcha, are you with Tingana and Anderson? Okay, copy. Thanks very much. Okay, folks, well, we are going to leave this sighting very shortly, so get some screenshots, and like I say, it's a gamble worth taking. It's no guarantee that they will come onto Arathusa, but hopefully they do, and then we'll be waiting in the right place to share a visual of them with you. It's something we've been talking about for weeks and weeks, the competition over territory between the Anderson male and Tingana, and it seems like now might be the time where we actually get to show you some of this interaction. Okay, well, it's time to go. And thanks very much, Doug. Thanks, Louis. We'll see you guys later. Well, that was... Oh. They're all having a good laugh at me for stalling. And we don't want to get too close to her as we disappear, but she doesn't seem too concerned. And we're going to send you off to James now while we hustle into position. And hopefully we will see you shortly. Actually, I'm so excited that I've gone the wrong way. So I'm going to just turn around. Anyway, we will see you later.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Wendy, where we are still with the recalcitrant Kunyuma. We've moved a little bit away from him for two reasons. The first being that we really would quite like him to come and have something to eat. And you know, he's a little bit, well, he's not that comfortable with vehicles, he doesn't like them too much. So we just thought we'd move a little bit away from the kill and see if we couldn't entice him to come and bite some of his kudu. We also don't, of course, want to disturb him if he does want to eat, because that just goes against what we're trying to do. He also gave us an indication that he wasn't particularly comfortable with us at one stage. Brian was, I don't know if you know this, but is an exceptional beatboxer, and he was doing a little bit of a demonstration for Kunyuma, who took exception, flicked his tail, stood up and snarled at us. So we thought, well, if he didn't like that, he's definitely not going to come and eat. So we've backed off a little bit, and we'll just see if he doesn't come up. There is also another vehicle trying to make its way into this area, and so we don't want to put too much pressure on him. I believe you've had a magnificent time with Shadow. Who seems to be a bit more confiding than her younger sibling. And we had some nice information that he is, in fact, he was born in November 2012. So he's just about 3 years old, from Mauritia. Thank you, Mauritia. Now apparently what's interesting is his brother Quarantine is obviously the same age, from the same litter, and is much more confiding than this chap is. He's not nearly as, doesn't get nearly as cross, is very sort of relaxed around vehicles, and doesn't snarl and lift his top lip in a fairly unpleasant manner every time he sees a car. Now what's interesting is that this is my second experience of two brothers from the same litter who behave in that manner. It's quite astonishing, and there are two things are interesting about it. The first is that, of course, all animals will have their own individual characteristics, and in the previous example that I have experienced when I was a young ranger, we had exactly this. One brother very nasty around the vehicles and the other completely relaxed, and the nasty one actually ended up on my bonnet one day from some distance, from about the distance that Kunyuma is now. He charged us and jumped up onto the vehicle, and it was very unpleasant. Thankfully all ended okay, and his brother you used to be able to walk into on foot, and he'd just look at you in a completely relaxed fashion. Oh, there we go. Action stations. Go on, have a bite to eat, old boy. So I think it was definitely the right call to move away. I might move so that we can get a slightly better look just now. Let's just see what he does. That is a massive piece of meat for one little leopard. He's going to struggle to finish that. He almost doesn't know what to do with it, it's so big. Brian, is this position okay for you?
No, yeah.
Look at that. So quite an interesting little tidbit of information just coming through there, that his brother Quarantine has also been very successful with young Kudu. I've just got to try and guide, somebody into the sighting who doesn't seem to be able to find me. We are quite deep in a drainage line. Ephraim, I can't hear you. Just give me a rev. The wind is quite strong. Nothing. What is your position? Confirm you came in on that 2-track? Yeah, just keep following. Just come south in the donga. You'll get us eventually. This animal is not relaxed, so come in very slowly. Sorry, I'll just tell everybody that's coming that he isn't relaxed, just so that they approach with a lot more care. You know, so often we get so used to these animals just you know, I've seen guys drive into lion sightings and just stop and start talking loudly, and if you do that here, he will either react by disappearing or by acting in an aggressive fashion, neither of which we want. Craig, we're in the drainage line south of Gowrie Dam. There's a 2-track that goes down into the drainage line. You can come down that on the eastern side of the drainage line on Central. You can come down that and then just make your way south in the drainage line. We're quite far south of that, but I think that's probably going to be your best access. Animal is not relaxed, so come in slowly. Yeah, there's quite a lot of space down here. So you'll see him there basically clearing out I can't see what Brian's seeing. He's pulling out the fur, basically. He's pulling out the fur, spitting it onto the ground. He'll eat the meat if he can, fatty, and then if he can, there are some francolins living very dangerously, walking around in front of him. If he can, as Ramey asked, will he go for the bone marrow? He will, definitely, if he can break the bones, if he's snarling at the francolins. If he can eat the bone marrow, he will certainly do that. Remember, bone marrow is very rich in fat, and fat is a very difficult nutrient to get out here. Sorry, there's major upheaval on the radio. Go ahead. Young male leopard. Look at him, he's just not a happy camper. Flicking his tail, that's classic. Just like a house cat will flick its tail when it's not happy. He's a very angry little fellow, this. He took offense at the two francolins walking past. So as I mentioned, sorry, 1 second. There are shortly to be 3 stations here, no space. So this kudu is obviously on the ground, which makes it very difficult to defend from any kind of predator that might come in and try and take it from him. I am going to keep looking away from the camera just to keep an eye on him, and what that means is that if a hyena was to come into an area like this, the hyena would probably be able to steal it from him. And we've had a question from Genevieve in New York about whether his testosterone levels would be affected by that, or whether his testosterone levels will affect his fight or flight response. And the answer is yes, definitely they would affect his fight or flight response. I mean, a more testosterone filled animal might be more inclined to have a fight. But remember, a leopard will avoid fighting at just about all costs. If a leopard gets injured in any way, that's the last they'll eat. No one's going to feed them, no one's going to help them. The hyena clan, that's very different. They obviously have a lot of chance to feed from other members of the clan. I'm smiling because the wilderness hath blessed us greatly today. While we are watching this leopard, Scott is currently positioning himself in a sighting of 2 more leopards, distinct from the others that we've seen today. And this is going to be a very interesting sighting because it is the Anderson male and Tingana, and they're in a territorial dispute. And without further ado, while this young fellow represents the younger generation, we're going to take you across to the older generation and see how they deal with their disputes.
Welcome back, everyone. And we've hit the jackpot. We've got so lucky. We are in this sighting. So far I've only seen Tingana, who we're looking at now, but the Anderson male is very nearby in some thick bush. And just to fill everyone in completely as to what's been going on, over the last few months, 2 big dominant male leopards, this being one of them, the other one is nearby, called Anderson, have been interacting and vying for dominance over territory. The Anderson male, who we cannot see now, who is bigger than Tingana and younger than Tingana, is pushing into Tingana's territory, and they've been having these arguments, these vocal arguments where they pace up and down next to one another, calling and growling and hissing and spitting at one another. And they've been doing that since the early hours of this morning. They were found together, and they've spent the whole day together. I saw a photograph that was taken by one of the guides this morning, and they were only meters away from one another, maybe 5 meters or so, calling and growling. And I'm fairly certain Tingana is looking directly at the Anderson male now. He's growling. Listen to him growling. Now, because it is very thick and there's a vehicle parked in the way, it's difficult to show you exactly what the scene is, but John can pan off to the left a little bit and show you the thick bush that Tingana is looking into. I'm combing through it with my binoculars, hoping to see the Anderson male. I've only seen him once, and it would be wonderful to see him again, and I'm sure we will. We just need to be patient. Somewhere in that thick bush is the Anderson male. Now, like I said, I've never seen them next to one another, but the guides who have been spending time with him say the Anderson male is considerably larger than Tingana. But I guess despite the Anderson male being bigger, he's not as experienced as Tingana. He's slightly younger than him. And isn't this ridiculous? 3 different leopards already today. And we might get a 4th. We might get the Anderson male. Absolutely incredible. And as far as I'm aware, Tingana used to push further west of where we are here into Anderson's current territory, but Anderson's been pushing further and further east into Arathusa. He's been seen as far as the Arathusa Dam, which isn't far from here at all. But even though it's not deep into Arathusa, it could be deep into unknown territory kind of for the Anderson male, who is slowly trying to expand and push Tingana out. He's growling again. I can hear movement. I think the Anderson male could be moving off to the left. Oh, no, there's a Franklin coming onto the scene. This is going to be funny. There's a Franklin walking straight towards Tingana. It's going to get a huge fright and probably fly off and let off an alarm call shortly. Let's watch this unfold. This is going to be hilarious. Tingana doesn't seem too interested in them. He's trying to look as big and mean as possible and not be shown getting distracted by these little crested Franklin. I'll sadly, I don't think you could hear that growling. It was just a low, rumbling growl. And I can hear some movement off in the very thick vegetation to our left. It could be the Anderson male moving about in there. Sid, have you got any visual of Anderson from where you are? I've just got on the Game Drive channel to ask Cedric, who's also in the sighting with us, if he's got any view of Anderson. But I didn't get a reply from him. He's maybe busy chatting to his guests. But like I say, we must just be patient, and we could get spoilt with an incredible view of not one but two big male leopards. At the moment, it doesn't look like too much is happening, and you wouldn't think that they are having a territorial dispute, but these things take time to settle, and it'll be interesting to see how much longer it takes before one of them decide to actually get into a physical encounter with one another. Most animals, as we discussed earlier on Drive, will try and avoid physical confrontation at all costs, and they'll usually try and assert dominance or attain dominance by vocalizing or even posturing, making themselves look big. But actual physical confrontation isn't very common. But it could at any point happen that these two male leopards will start lashing out at one another. We just got a question through from Shamrock, and she would like to know which of these two leopards is more relaxed with the vehicles. And I've only seen the Anderson male once, and I'm guessing he's not too different from Tingana. They were both born in the Sabi Sands. I know Anderson male was born in Mala Mala, so would have been exposed to a lot of guest viewing and human interaction from the vehicles. So they will be habituated, I think, fairly equally. And I don't expect any major differences to occur due to their habituation of the vehicles in the sighting. So it's not going to play any impact on what they're doing. It's as if we're not sure, even though we are crashing around and breaking down the odd branch. They are focused on their task at hand, and our presence here doesn't make a big difference to them. What I'm thinking of doing is trying to reposition to see if we can get you another view of another big dominant male leopard. Tingana doesn't seem to be doing much now. And hopefully we'll be able to get you views of the Anderson male, who we don't get to see. We've only ever seen him once before, very briefly. Okay. Sorry, Andre. Mr. Anderson, also known as the Ghost by some guys because he can be hard to track down. Oh no, that timing was off. I'm just going to stop here for a second. There we go, Jean-Andre's already on it. Now I'm not sure if that's Anderson or Tingana. I think it could be the Anderson male approaching Tingana. Watch closely. Oh yeah, that's Anderson. That's the Anderson male. He's going, well actually not straight towards Tingana, he's coming straight towards the road, and I'm going to suggest repositioning now quickly. It's going to get very thick where he's going, but if we reposition, we're going to get some great frontal views of him. Oh, great, we've got a view of two of them here now. The one's just lay down off to the right, and the other one's up ahead here, Jean-Ray. At the base of that fallen down tree. I think that's Anderson up ahead there. You'll see he's got very pale eyes compared to Tingana, so they've both just repositioned. They're staying about 10 meters from one another. This is incredible. This is the first time in 4.5 years of working in the Sabi Sands, which is where we are now. It's one of the best places in Africa to see leopard. And after spending 4.5 years here, I have never seen two big dominant males in the same sighting like this. So this is an incredibly special moment we're sharing. And 4.5 years is a long time here. What I'm going to do now is just try and creep forward a little bit, as both of them are not in view now. They're in view, but they're not in view, if that makes any sense. Okay, so this might work, not very well, but we will be able to see the Anderson male as well as Tingana, who's just off to our right. And if something does happen and they do move, then it'll get a lot better. Okay, so this is Tingana over here on the right. And the Anderson male is probably 20 meters away or so. And it's important to understand they've been seen together since the early hours of this morning. And naturally, they cannot fight permanently. There'll be moments of relaxing and getting their breath back in between. But at any moment, things could escalate into something a lot more violent and a lot more vocal. So even though it doesn't look like it right now, these two are in the middle of a very, very heated debate or argument over territory. They haven't been seen physically fighting with one another yet, but there's been a large amount of vocalizing. And they're just trying to work out who's going to give in first. One of them will need to give in at some stage. But right now they're sleeping it off. So that is the fourth adult leopard that we've seen so far this afternoon. I think it could be a record since we started broadcasting in November, and a very rare spectacle to behold two big males in the same sighting. It's not uncommon to see mothers with their cubs and their cub's father together, but to see two dominant males within just a few meters of one another, it can be. Here's some more growling. Listen carefully. It's a very low rumble. I know a lot of you have sent through requests for a moment of silence, and I couldn't think of a better idea. However, it is very windy, which makes picking up their audio difficult, and there are also other guides and vehicles in this sighting, and you'll probably hear them more than anything else. So we are not going to do a moment of silence, and it's not that we don't think it's a good idea. We just think in these windy conditions with two other vehicles, it's probably not going to work too well. Now, a lot of you have sent through comments mentioning how flat their ears are pinned against their skull, and they will flatten their ears when they are agitated and feeling aggressive towards both other leopards as well as us as humans. So it's a good behavioral indicator to learn. When they do flatten their ears, it is a good sign of agitation and frustration. And thanks for sending through those comments and observations that you guys have made. Often for us, there's so much going on, looking around and backwards and forwards and organizing the radio, we're not actually watching the monitor and the picture you're getting as often as we should be. So thanks for sending through those comments. It's a pearl-spotted owlet we can hear calling in the background, much like a whistle. Tiny little predatory owl, and that's one of my favorite calls out here. They're quite vocal at this time of the year, so we're hearing them most evenings. Well, it appears that there is a stalemate at the moment, and after all that excitement I was expecting to see a lot more action than this, as I'm sure a lot of you were as well, but we've caught them at a lull in their argument, and hopefully that will change shortly. We are probably going to be able to hang on for the next 15 minutes or so, but there's a lot of other guides that are wanting to come into the sighting. Well, I know it hasn't been easy to compare the sizes of these two individuals because they haven't actually been next to one another. And Jennifer's interested to know, is any one of them much bigger than the other? And to be honest, Jennifer, for me, who's seen many large male leopards, it's difficult to tell which one's bigger than another unless they are standing right next to one another. So let's hope that happens. But I have been told by the guides here who have seen them pacing side by side that Anderson is fairly larger than Tingana. So judging on what they've said, it is a bigger leopard, the one we're looking at now. But even since we've been here this afternoon and seen the two minutes after seeing each other, or one or either of them, it's very difficult for me to be able to tell which is bigger. Now, as we can see, at the moment there's a lull in their arguments, and Mischian has just sent through a question wondering if it's because they're waiting for the cover of darkness and for it to cool down. I just think it's bad timing, Mischian. I don't think it's got anything to do with the cover of darkness. They were seen in broad daylight today when it was far warmer, growling and vocalizing at one another, and they were also seen this afternoon when it was much warmer and brighter. So they are probably just tired and taking some time to relax. And like I said, it can't be a permanent 12-hour battle. It's something that's gradual. It's been happening not just today, it's been happening for many weeks, that they have been interacting, coming across one another, and having these verbal arguments, you could call it. At any point, they could fight, but I wouldn't say now that they are resting up simply for the big fight. It's going to be very difficult to predict when they do actually snap and get physical, and there's no guarantee that they will. They could eventually be able to settle this debate verbally. There's no guarantee, but it could well happen that way. So it's just something we're going to have to sit around and be patient, and hopefully we'll get lucky and see some kind of an interaction between them. Well, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering what James is up to at the moment, so we are going to send you back to him, and I'm guessing he is still with Kunyuma, another male leopard. Enjoy, and we will see you a bit later.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Kunyuma and his Kudu. That's some lovely alliteration there. It's not often that you spend so little time on air when you're looking at a leopard eating a kudu, but the magnificence of what this reserve has produced for us today is such that we could not but be with Shadow in the glorious golden light, and then those two magnificent males. But we've had a wonderful afternoon with Kunyuma here, and I hope he'll hang around for a while. I was just asking Ephraim, who's from Cheetah Plains, a reserve not far from here. He was just in the sighting, and he says that Quarantine is further south, moving quite a lot, but somewhere quite often around Hoffman's, which is a reserve just to the south of us now. What a splendid, splendid day the wilderness has produced for us this afternoon. Fairly quiet this afternoon until late find of Shadow, and then this afternoon, I mean, good grief. I don't know if you heard that. That's just a little Birchall starling going flying past on his last flight before he settles down. The sun has well set, so I'm sure you've seen. The sky is a beautiful gold and mauve and purple, and going into the evening, and shortly the full blue moon will come out of the eastern horizon. He's been at this for a little while, I think, and I suspect probably for about 24 hours at least. So he's managed to open it up quite nicely, and now he's eating. He's basically on the shoulders. And just remember, I'm not going to shine the light directly on him, because it's not great for his, well, I mean, it's probably not too bad for his eyes, but it just does leave him slightly night blind, exactly as it would if I shone this light in your eyes, and that would just leave you seeing spots for a while, and that's not great for an animal that needs to defend a kill in the night time, and an animal that sort of prides itself on being secretive and undiscoverable. This is a very interesting concept. So today we've seen the Anderson male, who's seemingly unrelated to this bunch. Then we saw Tingana, who's definitely unrelated because he comes from the deep south of the reserve. And then we've seen Shadow, who is his, look at that, who is his sister, but he's older by about 6 years. Now, we've had a nice question here about whether or not, if Shadow came in here, would Shadow be accepted, or what would happen? I think what you'd find is that Shadow would be chased away by Kunyuma here. I don't know if they've ever met. I doubt they've met, but if they have, you know, there might be some form of kin recognition. There certainly is with the females, but I think with the males, the older they get, the less that is the case, and the less tolerant they are of other leopards. If she was in heat, well, that would be a different story. You see, I don't think that he would notice, and he certainly wouldn't. He wouldn't balk at the idea of mating, because in the cats, it's just not it's not so much of an issue. Up to 6 generations of inbreeding can take place. So if she wasn't in heat and she tried to just approach and have an eat, then I think she'd be in quite a lot of trouble. Okay, so everybody, we've had a wonderful, wonderful afternoon here. We've had an incredible herd of buffalo and this magnificent leopard who we eventually found in this drainage line with his beautiful Kudu kill. We've only got a few minutes left, and I think it might be a good idea to hand you back over to Scott, who is still with those 2 males who apparently are growling at each other a little bit. So I think your last few minutes let's spend with the 2 big males. A big thank you to Brian, final control, and obviously to Scott and John Dre, who've provided a massive amount of entertainment, and mostly thank you to all of you and for all of your questions and comments. They've been much appreciated and yet again hugely stimulating. So thank you, and I will see you again, or we will see you again sometime during the morning. Thanks very much, and enjoy those 2 big males.
If you listen closely, you can hear a very gentle rumbling growl coming from Tingana, who's just next to us. Oh, and there's a hyena that just arrived there. You may have just seen it disappear through the shadows on the back of the screen, the kind of sensor top left of the screen. So there's a hyena snooping about. This is going to be awesome. What's going to happen next? Sniffing intently, and at any stage either of these male leopards could chase this hyena. But I think this hyena's made a wise move and realized that there's no meat here. You can hear Tingana growling. We haven't heard a whisper from Tingana just yet. And isn't that interesting? That the hyena probably smelt them. The wind was blowing in the direction that the hyena came from. Jean can zoom out now and you'll get an idea of where Anderson is in relation to him. It's probably about 20 meters or so that separates these two big male leopards. And this interaction and this behavior, even though it isn't very aggressive, is extremely rare to witness. And we are so lucky to be here. Now, I've mentioned before that the Anderson male is slightly larger than Tingana, this individual we're looking at now. And he's also slightly younger. I think the Anderson male is about 7 years old, and I think Tingana is about 8 or 9. So slightly older, this individual we're looking at now. And I think it's possibly the fact that he is older and therefore probably wiser than Anderson male that's allowing him to compete with him at the moment, even though the Anderson male is bigger. Size does count. Out here in nature it certainly does, but Anderson's obviously not big enough to completely overthrow Tingana, and that's why they are having these disputes with one another. It may eventually be settled, like I've said before, in a physical battle. But even then, we know as humans that you could have a David and Goliath scenario where a smaller opponent may beat a bigger one. So simply because Tingana is smaller than Anderson male, it doesn't mean that he'll necessarily lose a physical battle. Now, I'm sure a lot of you aren't going to complain that we run over the regular broadcast time. This is such a rare and unique opportunity, and it is something we've been speaking about for weeks on end now, the likely encounter of these two males. Listen carefully, there's a hyena calling. I'm just going to keep quiet. Well, wasn't that wonderful? We didn't only get to see a hyena earlier, but we've also just got to hear one now. As you can see, Tingana certainly wasn't fazed in the slightest by those hyena calls. I'm not sure how much longer we will stay here. Like I said, obviously we want to try and show you as much as possible, but not much is happening at the moment. The good news is, though, for Dean in North Carolina, who's just asked how far are they away from the Arethusa waterhole where there's a live cam, they're not far at all, probably less than half a mile away, and they could well end up there. So when we do finish the broadcast, whenever we do decide to a little bit later, there is a chance that they could pop out at the Arethusa Dam, and hopefully you'll then be able to get some more visuals of them. But not to worry, we're not going anywhere just yet, and I'm keen to give it a few more minutes to see if we can't get any more interesting interactions between these two males. Like I said earlier, they have been pacing side by side next to one another, doing a lot of vocalizing, I'm told, from the other guides, and it would be incredible to see and hear the two of them letting off their rasping roar at the same time. Interestingly, Shadow is probably about 3/4 of a mile away from us as the crow flies, and these two males will certainly be vying for not only territory but the ladies that occupy this territory, which is Shadow mainly. And in the next few months, when she comes into season again, probably in around 6 months or so, she'll come into season again. It'll be interesting to see which one of these two males gets to mate with her, if not both of them. It would be wise if she could manage to try and seduce both, because that way they would both be led to believe that they would be the fathers of the next litter, and therefore neither of them would hopefully kill the cubs, as males who know they are not the father of any certain cub will kill it in order to release the female of her responsibility of raising genes that are not of any given male, and that way she'll come into season again and that male can then mate with her. So that is the reason why leopards will kill other leopard cubs that are not belonging to them. And it's actually one of the largest killers of leopard cubs. It's a misconception that it's hyenas and lions that are always killing the cubs. It's very often male leopards. And they'll kill cubs whether they are male or female. All they'll be wanting to do is release. I just stop there, listen carefully. I've just heard the first growl come back from the Anderson male. So there was a small response. But certainly the majority of the vocalizations that we've heard have been from this individual here, Tingana. Hardly a whisper out of Anderson. Until now, I just heard one little grumbling growl. It might be worth having a quick look at the Anderson male. He is kind of facing towards us at the moment. He's just repositioned and faced his head away from us, but there he is. You can still hear Tingana growling. None of the growls that we can hear now have been coming from Anderson, bar one little grunt. It's absolutely incredible that we can be allowed so close to these wild and dominant leopards, witnessing this very interesting behavior between them, having little or no impact on what they're up to. Okay, well, we've just had our decision made a lot easier by the fact that there's another vehicle joining this sighting now.